Hello and welcome back to Foundation of Cybersecurity course. And this is our sixth lecture. And in contingency planning, this is our third class. So let's see what actually contingency planning is. So first of all, let's see what are the objectives of this session. So once we are done with these three series of class, means once you watch these three videos, you will be able to recognize the need for contingency planning in any business. You can describe the major components of contingency planning. You will be able to create simple set of contingency plans based on business impact analysis. You can prepare and execute a test also of any contingency plans, and you can explain a combined contingency plan approach also in this case. So what actually is contingency planning? So it is very important to understand, like the managers of the company, they must provide a strategic planning to assure continuous information systems is available and it is always ready to use when there is any unexpected scenarios in an organization. So, and the reason why I'm saying this is because whenever an organization use a technology and this technology is disturbed due to attacks or maybe due to any other reasons, the whole business stops. And when the business process actually stops, there will be huge loss that the company has to bear. So there must be some. So in that case, there should be some procedures that needs to be followed, or there should be some procedures which are actually required to permit the organization to continue its core essential, I can say core or essential business processes or functions, if that particular information technology support is interrupted. But on the other side, if you see, there are 40% of businesses actually they don't have this disaster plan to go out to. They don't have this disaster plan, and due to which they suffer a major loss whenever they have these unexpected scenarios. So it is very important to understand. It depends on the organization size. So, for example, there may be some large organization uh, that can have this contingency planning, and there can be a small organization which may not have this entire contingency planning means as a whole. They may not use as a whole because of their financial budget, but overall it should be like it is must that every organization should have some adequate planning for uh, in terms of contingency. So what is the actual definition of contingency planning? So it is an overall planning for unexpected events. So we saw the case of iPremier. So in the case of iPremier, we saw the company suffered a distributed denial of service attack. And this distributed denial of service attack is actually this unexpected event. So we need to be prepared. First, you need to be prepared. And once the attack has happened, you need to detect, you need to react, and finally, you need to recover from those events which are going to threaten the security of information resources and assets. It's very important. Like this recovery should be in terms of resource and assets. So the main goal of contingency planning is to restore the entire business process to the normal modes of operation with minimum cost. So cost is very essential in this. We are going to see this why cost is very important in contingency planning in our upcoming slides. So you need to come back to the normal mode with minimum cost, and this unexpected event or the activities should be should get stopped, and the normal business should get back to up and running mode in up and running mode. So this is the main components of contingency planning. So actually there are three main parts. First is incident response planning, second is disaster recovery planning, and third is business continuity planning. But in order to go to incident, disaster, and business, first thing is like we have to perform a business impact analysis. You need like in any organization, there will be so many different types of business processes. So it's very important to analyze which business process which is going to have huge impact on in terms of financial or in terms of other demands. So this business impact analysis is in the hierarchy is on the top, based on which the the response team is going to perform incident response planning, or they can follow disaster recovery planning, or they can follow business continuity planning. So we are going to see each of them in our upcoming in my next slide. So let's start first with contingency planning, what actually it is. So in contingency planning, the first thing, like as I told you, the first thing is about incident response planning. So it means this IRP, or incident response planning, focuses on immediate response. So immediate response means, like, if an attack has happened and somehow we are able to classify it. So it's not a false alarm. It's an attack. In that case, we are going to follow certain set of procedures in order to in order to in order to restore, or in order to stop that particular attack. But if the attack escalates, or it is a disastrous the process is going to change to disaster recovery plan. So in disaster recovery plan, its main focus is on restoring systems after the disasters has occurred, and 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 the main objective is we are going to restore all operation at the primary site where actually this disaster has happened. So DRP typically focuses on restoring system after disaster occur, and as such is very closely associated with BCP also. So BCP, on the other hand, is now the disaster impact is so high. It's so high, like you cannot perform the all operations on the primary side. So now you have to look for an alternative site where you are going to perform those operations. And the other thing is this BCP occurs concurrently with this DRP when the damage is major or for a long term, and if it requires more than simple restoration of information and information resources. So overall, if you see this IRP, DRP, and BCP, actually they are classified in terms of impact. What is the impact of the incident on an organization? So if the impact is low, we are going to follow IRP. If the impact is high, we are going to follow DRP. If the impact is out of control, we are going to follow BCP. So this is how they have been categorized in contingency planning. Now, to ensure continuity, in order to ensure this, continuity planners should first should follow certain rules. These are the steps which they should always follow. First of all, it's very important to identify the mission or business critical functions and the resources that are going to support them. So in an organization, there will be multiple uh, critical functions. So you need to finalize this first. So this comes under BIA. So you need to come and you need to check which of the functions is very important in order to make the entire process up and running. Now, based on which you need to select contingency planning strategies, whether it is an IRP, DRP, BCP, and then you need to implement that particular selected strategies, and then you need to test and revise the contingency planning, because you don't want that the plan which you have made it if it is never tested. So whenever, so in the case of iPremier, we saw they had this BCP, but they never checked that BCP. They never tested that BCP. So it's very important to test and to revise, because every time, because if there are some changes in the business process, some internal changes, so your contingency planning should also get revised based on those changes. Yes, so how this contingency planning starts? So first thing in contingency planning is it's begin with a contingency planning policy statement. So this policy statement is going to give you, or it's going to provide you the authority and the guidance which is necessary to develop an effective contingency planning. So this policy starting point from which an organization is going to develop its own contingency planning. So once you have the policy stated in your organization, the second step is to conduct the BIA, in which you are going to identify and you are going to prioritize some critical IT systems and its components. As I told you previously, so there will be multiple business processes, and you need to finalize which processes among them is very crucial for your overall business. Then you need to identify some preventive controls. Actually, this is the measures taken to reduce the effects of system disruptions. System disruptions can increase system availability and reduce contingency lifecycle cost. Second is you need to develop recovery strategies. So once you have identified some preventive controls, next is to develop recovery strategies, and this ensures that a system can be recovered quickly and effectively following a disruption. And then you need to develop an IT contingency plan, which is a very detailed guidance and procedures for restoring a damaged system. And then you need to plan testing, you need to perform training, and you need to do this exercise, because testing is when you have a plan ready. If you perform this regular testing, then you can always check what are the gaps in your planning. You can easily identify the gaps which you have planned for a particular attack. And training actually is going to prepare the personnel, the team members who actually are going to be activated during this disruption. So it's very important that you have a proper training for all personnel who are going to be involved during this unexpected event. And finally, this regular exercises training and exercises. And finally, this both activities is going to improve the overall plan effectiveness and overall agency preparedness. So it's very important. Like we saw in iPremier case, they had this BCP, but they never trained their personals on that particular BCP plan. So they were not aware of how they are going to use or how they are going to utilize that particular BCP plan. So it's very important to train your plan to perform regular exercises and training with your personals who are going to be involved during that particular disruption. And finally, you need to plan for maintenance, because as I told you, these documents should be a living document. You don't want that document to dead, and there might be certain changes in your business processes. So based on those business processes, you should always change your contingency planning. So it should always get regularly. It should be updated, because if they are not regularly updated, it may become dead. It may not be live document. So for any system enhancement, you should always perform some changes in your contingency planning accordingly. So these are the major steps in contingency planning. So I have listed this four in a box. So if you see in BIA, we have certain series of operations that we perform, which is threat attack identification and prioritization, business unit analysis, attack success scenario development, potential damage assessment, subordinate plan classification. Similarly, in incident response planning, we have 4 steps. You plan, you detect, you react, and you recover. Similarly, in DRP, we have plan for disaster recovery. Then we have this crisis management, and finally, some recovery operations are there. And for business continuity planning, you need to establish continuity strategies, plan for continuity of operation, and of course, continuity management. So we are going to see these things into more details. So what it actually is BIA? So BIA is not actually about risk management. It is like, if the attack succeeds, then what do we do then? So it's a very important question. So if the attacks is successful, what do we do then? So in that particular case, it's very important that you should know what are the critical what are the critical business processes in your overall organization, and in order to help with this process, the BIA comes into picture. So it provides the CP team with information about systems and the threats they face. So it is a very crucial component of the initial planning stages, because based on which we perform different contingency planning. It provides a detailed scenario of each potential attack's impact. So it is also very important. So it is going to give you the whole overall impact of an attack on a particular contingency, on a particular business process. And like I told you, it's not a risk management where you focus on identifying threats, vulnerabilities, and attacks to determine controls. So basically, BIA assumes like all security measures that you had, for example, firewall, intrusion detection system, and other, they are all bypassed or they are ineffective, and the attack is successful now. So what's next? So what next you need to do? So this is what the business impact analysis thinks means is all about. So this is an example of attack profile. So as I mentioned, like you need to first identify a threat, and you need to prioritize. So you should always update a threat list with latest developments and add those attack profile. So in this attack profile, we have taken a case of malicious code via email. So if you see in this figure, we have date of analysis. We are starting with date of analysis, then we have attack name and description, then we have threat and probable threat agent, known or possible vulnerabilities, likely precursor activities or indicators, and so on. So basically, this is actually what an attack profile is that we need to build in uh, you need to build for each of your business processes. Okay, so the next thing is we create a series of scenarios depicting impact of successful attack on each functional area. For example, in this example, the functional area was a malicious code via email, and it is going to attack on the email of the personnel who are going to be involved in the organization. So you need to create a series of scenarios depicting impact of successful attack on each functional area. Attack profiles should include scenarios depicting typical attack, including methodology, indicators, broad consequences. So in this, actually, if you go through this, we have mentioned what was the attack type, what was the attack and threat, what was the known and possible vulnerabilities, and so on. So we have classified based on those functional areas of the attack and broad consequences. And finally, you need to list outcomes: best, worst, and most likely. So over here also, if you see, we have damage or loss to information assets likely from this attack. Other assets are at risk from this attack, none. Damage or loss to other assets likely from this attack, none. Immediate actions indicated when this attack is underway. So disconnect email, update email. So this is what your outcome is best. So based on which you are going to we are going to list best case, worst case, and most likely alternative case in the case of when the attack is success. And then you need to estimate the cost of each of these outcomes. So basically, the BIA team from this attack success scenarios, what you have developed, the BIA planning team must estimate the cost of the best, worst, and most likely cases. And this cost actually is going to include actions of the response team also. So by preparing an attack scenario in case, so this is the final result. So the final result is going to be called as attack scenario end case, which is going to allow identification of what must be done to recover from each possible case. So what CPMT, Contingency Planning Management Team, performs? does. So basically, there are three stages in which this BIA is actually performed. So the first stage is BIA starts with prioritization of business processes, like I told you. So, for example, in any organization, there can be, for example, in car manufacturing organization, there can be multiple business processes. One can be assembly line restoration. There can be a maintenance process. There can be a recruitment process. Now, the BIA needs to prioritize, like based on financial laws, and other things they need to check, and based on which they need to make a list of prioritization in which they can mention, okay, so assembly line is very important because it is going to have a huge impact on organization uh, financial in terms of financial cost compared to maintenance process. So the first step starts with prioritization of business processes. The second thing is BIA performs establishes a sets of questions or a questionnaire, and they ask this questionnaire. They perform this questionnaire to the experts and the senior management in order to get more knowledge of these business processes. So it's very important. These questionnaires are being prepared in such a way that they get the useful information about all business processes. Then once this prioritization is done, then the cost comes into picture. What is going to be the cost? And to analyze the cost, they try to analyze what can be the maximum tolerable downtime, MTD. So what is MTD? So by the definition, it's clear: the total amount of time the system owner, means the actual owner of the business, is willing to accept for a business process outage. It is like the business owner has to come up with a maximum tolerable downtime that they can accept whenever there is a whenever the system is down because of attack or because of any unexpected event. So so it's very difficult to come up with a particular number, and this number can't be zero, because zero is not possible. And if the business owner goes with zero, the cost is going to be very high. So zero is almost not possible in that case. The second is a recovery time objective. So this recovery time objective means now you want to get those system resources up and running. So what time you are going to take to make those system resources up and running? So maximum amount of time that a system resource can remain unavailable before this there is an unexpected impact on other system resources, other business processes, and MTD. So maximum tolerable time is that entire time, and out of that entire time, one time is for RTO, which is recovery time objective. How much time you are going to take to recover those systems in order to perform the operation. And the second is work recovery time, WRT. So the amount of effort or time required to make business function after technology is recovered. Because once the technology is recovered, still you need to perform certain testing and validation, and based on which the entire system will be ready to be used. So this MTD combines two things: RTO and WRT. So yeah. And the next is a recovery point objective. So this is actually the point where up to what we can roll back or we can recover. So not roll back, up to what we can recover back. Uh, so 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 the point in time prior to disruption to which business processes data can be recovered up to or for a given backup. Next, if you see, yeah, okay. So now in this diagram, we can easily see what this MTD, RPO, RTU, and WRT is. So on the left hand side, if you see of this diagram, it starts with RPO, where the normal operation was there, and is certainly and this red system failure it indicates there can be a system failure, or there can be any unexpected event happen that particular time. And this is the MTD which the owner is willing to go with. So in this MTD, the first part is RTO, and the second part is WRT. So this RTO, here you are trying to recover the systems which are going to be used for that particular business operation. And once that has been recovered, this RWRT is responsible for validation, checking the data and systems so that it can be up and running. And then you go to the normal operation. So it's very important that this cost needs to be so cost is actually involved directly in this recovery time. If you see the x-axis, it talks about length of disruption time, and y-axis is about cost. So as we start from x-axis, the length of disruption time is very less, but the cost to recover is very high. So if I put some values on x-axis, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, on 2, you can see the value of the blue line is very less, and the cost to recover the red line will be very high. So we need to find. So this is what actually I was telling you. If you want to have a zero downtime, so the cost of recovery will be very high. Maybe you are going to perform. You are going to perform more redundant system. You need to have so that the process can still function during that unexpected event. So the cost is going to be very high. So, and as you go on this x-axis, where we see cost to recover is written, you can see the length of disruption time is now very high. So the cost of disruption is high, and the cost to recover is very less in that case. So as the length increases, cost reduces, and if the length decreases, cost is going to increase. So we need to find a cost balancing point, which should be ideal for any organization. Okay, so next is stage 2. So in stage 2, we need to identify a recovery resource requirement. So once you have prioritized the list, now you know which business functions are very important for your organization, then you need to determine what resources would be required to recover those processes. So for example, in customer billing, you need a customized accounts receivable application. Apart from this, you also need application server with Linux operating system and Apache server. So it's not about the prioritization. It's also about the resources that you are going to need for that particular business operation or process. And step 3 stage 3 here is you need to identify system resource recovery priorities. So now, even though we have made a list of prioritization, but still we need to find which is the most critical processes among them, because based on which it is going to serve as a path for us to implement IR, DRP, or BCP based on those processes. Yeah, so these are the 3 different stages of business impact analysis. Next is incident response planning. So incident response planning is a detailed set of processes and procedures that anticipate, detect, and mitigate the impact of an unexpected event that might compromise information resources and assets. So basically, it holds certain procedures which you have to follow when an incident is detected, and basically when a threat becomes a valid attack. So in our last class, we saw there will be multiple threats based on which one attack, if it exploits the vulnerability of the system, it becomes an attack, and that attack actually is classified in information security as incident. So we can call an incident if we can call a threat a valid attack, and it can be classified as an incident only and if it is detected against information assets, it has a realistic chance of success, and it threatens the confidentiality, integrity, or availability of information assets or resources. So incident response is a reactive measure. It's not a preventive measure. So preventive comes under risk management, which we are going to see in our upcoming classes. But it is a reactive measure where we assume the attack has actually happened, or an unexpected event actually has happened. It can be system failure also. And now what we need to do next. So this is what the reactive actually means here. So, okay, so before the incident, we need to develop some procedures or tasks that must be performed in advance of the incident. This is very important. There should be a details of data backup schedules, disaster recovery preparation, training schedules, testing plans, copies of service agreements, business continuity plans. So these are all are self-explanatory. So I will not go into details, but these are certain procedures that should be followed before any incident happens. And in this picture, actually, I have given you what can be done before, after, and during an attack in terms of a user and in terms of technology services. For example, during an attack for user, what they can do if your antivirus software detects an attack, it will delete the virus or quarantine the file that carries it. You need to record any messages that occur that your antivirus software displays and notify technology services immediately. On the other hand, if you see the role of technology services is if users begin reporting virus attack, record the information provided by the user. So there are such certain series of things that needs to be done during, before, and after an attack. Okay, so incident classification or detection. So so you need to determine whether an event is an actual incident. So, and it is a very challenging task. Like there can be many false incidents that needs to be classified whether it is an actual incident or it's not. So, and for this, you're going to use some initial reports from end users, from intrusion detection systems, from host and network-based virus detection software, and system administrators are going to use different log files. And apart from this, if the organization is performing careful training, then it is going to allow everyone to relay vital information to the incident response team. So it's very difficult and it's very challenging task. But if you follow these steps, you can easily classify whether the detected incident is actually is an attack or not. So, so these are some possible, these are some incident indicators that can be followed. For example, possible indicators of incidents comes under our presence of unfamiliar files. If you don't know what this file is, and now you see an unfamiliar file on your system, this can be a possible indicator for an unexpected event. A probable indicator can be activities at unexpected times. So you are facing certain activities at particular duration of time. Then, and for definite indicators, it is use of dormant accounts, and second is changes to the logs, presence of hacker tools, notifications by partner or peer, notification by hacker. So definite indicators are these are very strongly connected to uh, how you can actually classify the attacks, whether it is an actual or a false incident. So you can go through them. It is self-explanatory, so I don't have to explain these in no details. But yes, there are three different indicators: possible, probable, and definite. Yeah. So incident response. So once an actual incident has been confirmed and properly classified, now the IA teams move from detection phase to a reaction phase. So now you were prepared for an incident. Now you know how you can actually you can classify an incident into a false or a positive, uh, or an actual incident. Now, once it has been classified, yes, this is an incident and has been classified by then the IR team is going to move to the detection phase to reaction phase. So in the incident response phase, a number of action steps are taken by the IR team, and other must occur quickly and may occur concurrently. So these steps include notification of key personnel, the assignment of tasks, and documentation of the incident. Yes, next is DRP. So the preparation for and recovery from a disaster, whether natural or a man-made. So this is what a disaster recovery plan is all about. So that if the impact is very high, it's if like I told you in the beginning, if impact is less, it is you are going to follow incident response plan. If the incident is high, then we switch to disaster recovery plan. And in general, an incident is a disaster actually when the organization is unable to contain or control the impact of an incident. So everything is based on the impact, how you see how you see the impact and what can be the financial loss based on that particular incident. The level of damage or destruction from an incident is so severe, the organization is unable to quickly recover. Yeah. So the role of our DRP is defining how to reestablish operations at the location where the organization is usually located. I told you this thing in the beginning. So if the impact is high, we are going to move from IRP to DRP, and we are going to try to resolve this whole disaster recovery plan is going to be done on the same primary location where actually the primary site where actually the entire organization is. Okay. So the key points in DRP the key points in DRP is clear delegation of roles and responsibilities. So so everyone should know about their roles and responsibilities during this disaster. Someone must take initiate and they should also alert the alert roster and notify the key personnel who are actually involved during this disaster. Clear establishments of priorities. So someone must be tasked with the documentation of the disaster. It is also very important. If and only if it is possible, some attempts must be made to mitigate the impact of the disaster on the operations of the organization. And alternative implementation for the various systems components should also be followed. Then the disasters can be classified into natural disaster versus man-made disaster. Then based on which rapid onset disaster versus slow onset. So there are these are some classification of disasters which can be natural, man-made, rapid onset, slow onset. And then next is scenario development and impact analysis, which is actually used to categorize the level of threat of each potential disaster, and DRP must be tested and regularly must be tested regularly. So next is BCP, business continuity planning. So BCP actually is about if the impact is out of control and you cannot perform all operations on the primary site, then you need to relocate to an alternative site. So then the business continuity plan comes into the picture. So it ensures critical business functions can continue still in a disaster, and it is managed by CEO of the organization. On the other hand, this DRP is managed by CISO, and the incident response planning IRP is managed by the technicians at the of the organization. So this can be activated and executed concurrently with the DRP when needed. So basically, BCP reestablishes critical function at alternative site, and on the other hand DRP focuses on reestablishment and the primary site, so they both run concurrently together, and it heavily relies on the identification of critical business function from BIA and the resources that are going to be needed to support them, and based on which you are going to have different options to perform business continuity strategies. It can be hot sites, where means you need fully configured computer facility with all services. It can be warm site, like it is like hot site, but software applications not kept fully prepared. It can be cold, shared use. These are self-explanatory, like how actually you can perform business continuity strategies and what resources actually are needed. And for all, the cost is something that you need to determine before following this DRP. Yeah, timeshares, bureaucracies, mutual agreements, specialized alternatives, and so on. Let's move on. So next is data recovery. To get any BCP site running quickly, organization must be able to recover data. And in order to recover actually the data, there are multiple processes that they can follow. First is electronic vaulting. Second is remote journaling. Third is database shadowing. And I leave it this thing to you to go through these and how actually this works. But whenever you are using these three options, it turns out that they all have their own different risks attached with them. Yeah, so this is a very useful example. If you see, in the first example, we have denial of service attack incident, in which if the incident has occurred on a single PC, then we can say that we can follow this IRP. However, if the attack is performed on multiple servers, and in that case, we can follow the next this BCP, business continuity planning, or DRP in that case. So in this diagram, we can see the attack has happened on a single system, which is a denial of service attack. But if the attack happens on multiple servers, then we can say it is from multiple servers. Then it is actually a distributed denial of service attack, and based on which you need to follow your contingency planning. So actually, if a disaster occurs on an organization, then the staff or the people who are involved in this entire response team, they are going to finalize where they have to where they have to follow this contingency planning. For example, if they move this entire business to an alternative site, it means they are following business continuity planning. If they are trying to uh, um, they are, and at the same time, they can also work on the primary business side to get everything back up and running. So DRP and BCP can always run concurrently, just to minimize the loss. Yeah, so this is a very useful uh, working, which tells you what actually is about this IRP, DRP, and BCP. So if you see on the top, we have this IRP, and IRP starts with incident detection, then you react, and finally you perform certain steps to recover. So once the incident is resolved, operation is restored and IRP is ended. However, if the incident is classified as a disaster, then we move from IRP to DRP, where disaster reaction team perform certain procedures at the same operation site, and if the impact is so high that it cannot be done on the primary location or on the primary site, they move to an alternative site where they follow this BCP or continuity reaction, and where in BCP they follow this continuity reaction or alternative site operations. So both of them can happen at the same time together. So if you see this whole IRP, DRP, BCP, the x-axis talks about attack occurs. So IRP actually is followed during attack, when attack has happened, and post attack normally we follow DRP, and to a certain time period actually. And once this time period for certain hours, but if it turns out like you cannot fix the whole problem in hours, then we move toward business continuity planning, BCP, and we move the whole operations to an alternative site. So it depends. So if you can fix the incident quickly, you can follow IRP. In hours, you can go for DRP, and if it takes days, then you should go to for BCP. Yeah, next is crisis management. So crisis management, it is a set of focus steps that actually deal primarily with the people who are actually going to be involved during this during disaster and after the disaster, because it is ultimately it is going to be a set of people who are going to be responsible to manage the whole crisis. And crisis management team actions main objective is to support personnel and their loved ones during the crisis, determine the event's impact on normal business operation. They need to make this disaster declaration to the public, and keeping the public informed about the event, like I told you, communicating with outside parties. There will be many third parties associated with the organization, so they need to inform each communicating parties. The key task of the crisis management team is to verify personal status, whether those people are actually available or not during those, and they should also activate uh, the alert rosters. So most organizations maintain actually these alert rosters for emergencies, and actually an alert roster contains contact information for the individuals to be notified during an incident. So these are the two tasks that crisis management team performs. Yeah, business risk resumption planning. So because DRP, DCP are closely related, most organizations prepare them concurrently, and these are some components of a simple disaster recovery plan, which are self-explanatory: name of agency, date of completion, agency staff to be called in the event of a disaster, emergency service to be called, locations of in-house emergency equipment supplies, sources of offsite. So I will not explain these things. You can just see like they are all are self-explanatory. What they mean, it can be understood directly from here. Yeah, so this is a contingency planning template. So you can see it starts with some assumptions, critical success factors, mission critical systems, threats, system descriptions, plan you have, then you recommend certain strategies, and so on. And you need to perform some testing of this contingency planning, because ultimately you don't want that the planning that you have been done, they are never tested. So problems are identified during this testing only, because once you have made this planning ready, and if you don't perform this testing regularly, then it may happen you may not find a proper solution for that particular unexpected event. So improvements can be made and resulting on a reliable plan. And this testing strategies are going to include desk check, structured walkthrough, simulation, parallel testing, and full interruption testing. So you can go through this link on the bottom, and actually you can see how actually this testing actually works based on 4 team members: red, blue, purple, and how they work in any organization. Yeah, thanks for listening, and see you in the next class.